Well, another day, another victory. Yay. Yeah, good. I mean, second win of this tournament, 2.5 out of 3. So, that's good. What can I say about the game? Oh, it was good. My opponent was actually quite dangerous. I mean, he played okay. I feel like he made some mistakes for sure. I was also inaccurate, and I know for a fact I missed I missed the win in one move, which is very very awkward. But luckily, he gave me another opportunity the very next move, and I managed to take advantage of that. So that's good. So yeah, I won off of a blunder, but it's part of the game. So yeah, I take it, I guess. Yeah, but again, I feel like I played okay. I definitely could have played better, but overall, it was good. So all right, so yeah, 2.5 out of 3. I'm expecting a strong opponent tomorrow. We'll see what happens, but for today, that's pretty much it. A win is a win. Let me show you what happened, how it turned out. So I'll see you on the analysis board. Yeah.
What's going on YouTube, and welcome to the third round game recap of the Sants Open. As you heard it in my post-game thoughts, I won this round as well, so I'm currently 2.5 out of 3. Now, let me show you what happened in this game. So, my opponent is Campos Cayuelas Adria, and I'm playing black. My opponent is a little over 2100. Now, the preparation for this game wasn't very easy, just because he plays quite a few things. He started with e4, he started with d4, all kinds of moves, so I didn't really know what to expect. But against me, he picked 1d4. So d4, d5, c4, e6, knight f3, and again I picked my trusty a6 move. So in the first round, I picked this line, and in that one I faced the more traditional Queen's Gambit structures. In this one, I faced the Catalan version, starting with 4g3. Now here there are two moves. You can start with knight f6, or you can start with d take c4. So there aren't a lot of differences, a lot of lines, transpose into one another. The additional bonus that you have with d take c4 is that you can protect the pawn immediately. So let's say d takes c4, bishop g2, and now black can play, for instance, b5. And of course, let's say knight e5, c6, and then the line goes on and on and on. Knight c6 and met by queen b6, and so on. Now, of course, black doesn't need to protect it. Black can just play knight c6 or knight f6, and they all, transpose into the main lines. So at this point, I didn't really know what I wanted, what kind of structure I want to go for. I definitely, wanted to take on c4. I just didn't know what variant I want to go for, so I just picked knight f6, bishop g2, and now I took on c4. Of course, it makes sense to take on c4, having a6. I mean, it makes sense, of course. Now here the main line definitely starts with castle, and after castle, black goes knight c6, e3, bishop d7, and so on. So these are well-known lines. Actually, this line got popular back in 2010, or around that time when, there was the Anand Topalov World Championship match. This line was very, very popular in those times, in those years, and I also used to play this line, so I kind of knew what to expect here. Now, normally, of course, this is not the typical move order. So the typical move order starts with 3 knight f6 instead of a6, of course, and after g3, d takes c4, bishop g2, and again, black has two moves here, either a6 or knight c6. So if black really wants to go for the setup that we're talking about and wants to be precise in that sense, then black should start with a6. And after castle, knight c6, e3. Now we just transposed. So the reason why it's a little bit more precise, it's not like it's better, but if black wants to go for this structure specifically, then a6 is a better way, because if here knight c6, white has this queen a4 move, and then bishop b4, bishop d2, knight d5, so on and so forth. Of course, this is still well-known theory. It's just a little bit different. Now, this is, again, just a little bit of, theory talk, but in the game, this didn't even happen because my opponent decided to go with a4. So a4 was a little bit surprising to me. I mean, it does exist. a4 does exist. It's just I don't think it's the best version. Castle it definitely outshines 6a4. So knight c6, castle, rook b8. So here, this is the first somewhat weird move happened, in my opinion, from my opponent. My opponent played rook e1. So rook e1 feels a little bit awkward to me. Now, of course, yes, white wants to play e4, grab the center. I don't know, it just feels, rook e1 just feels a little bit weird. White is underdeveloped. White is not trying to get the pawn back. White is not trying to play b3 here. And those are the typical ways. And so rook e1 feels to me a little bit off, or at least during the game it felt a little bit off, and I think I was correct. Now, like my feeling was correct about this move. So it was indeed an inaccuracy. So the better move definitely would have been a5, which makes a lot of sense. Now he played a4. It makes sense to push the pawn even further, to maybe discourage black from playing b5 or so. So this would have been definitely a better move. And again, there are still quite some games here, even from strong players like over 2,600 grandmasters. Again, this is just it would have been another game. Now my opponent played rook e1. So I think I responded in a very natural way, and I think it was, to me, during the game, it was kind of like a no-brainer, but maybe wasn't actually the best. So I responded with bishop b4, which seems like a super logical way to do things. I developed with a tempo, makes a lot of sense, but maybe it's not the best. I could have actually played knight a5. Now, knight a5 kind of like points out the flaws of rook e1. Rook e1, as I said, was a little bit awkward. And so knight a5, I'm also not developing, but at the same time, white has some problems that needs to be solved, and knight a5 kind of points it out. So now I really want to jump to b3, which is super awkward. So, and if you go like knight bd2, I can play bishop b4, and now your development is kind of sketchy. Like how are you going to solve this pin, the bishop development from c1? This one definitely would have been better. Anyway, I played bishop b4, which I believe still makes sense. Bishop d2, and here I am kind of criticizing my move here, because I took on d2, which is definitely not necessary. I don't really know why I took it. So of course it definitely goes against the principle, because why do you take? Like, it's not forced, and I'm not really gaining anything. I can't really tell you, to be honest. Like, I think it's just my bad. I simply just should have castled. Of course, I considered castle during the game, but I don't know why I didn't do it. I just felt like bishop d2 is easier, but castle would have been just a better move, of course. Now queen takes d2, castle, e4, and then I played b5. b5 was okay. b5 was okay. I think it's a logical follow-up. Maybe queen e7 would have been just a tiny bit better, just to potentially put my knight on b4 and eventually d3. But I started with b5. So b5, a takes b5, a takes b5, and here my opponent was definitely and definitely made an inaccuracy or another one because my opponent played knight c3. Knight c3, I believe, is a small mistake because it allows me to play knight b4 without even preparing knight b4, right? So I think better direction would have been b3 just to, break through or just kind of like do something with that structure, right? So b3, very typical way, by the way, of dealing with this structure, and then takes queen c3. I'm currently up 2 pawns, but white is getting one back, and then white has some decent compensation on the c file, on c5. So I feel like it's everyone's game. I think, again, white is maybe a little bit worse. Black is definitely not worse. I feel like, objectively speaking, it should be around equal. But my opponent played the move knight c3. So of course I went with knight b4, b3, and here I jumped to d3, which felt like a normal move. Maybe c takes b3 was also a really good option. I was considering that. Knight e3, rook e2, and here I made a mistake. And the weird thing was that I actually knew that it was a mistake, but I still went for it, and I can't really tell you why. I mean, the only reasoning that I have is that I didn't really know what else to do. Like, I mean, maybe that's weird, and that's probably silly to say, because there is a very, very simple move of bishop b7. So, it's even, again, it's hard for me even in like post analysis. Like it's I don't know. Like it's weird. Like, why was it hard for me to come up with this move, bishop b7? So I don't know. After bishop b7, I'm clearly better. I have good pieces. I kept my pawn around. It would have been great. I played c5, and again, I knew this was a mistake. I was kind of okay with it, even though I knew it was a mistake. But it was a mistake, and also, yeah, I think I made this mistake of hoping that my opponent doesn't see it, and I was like, even if my opponent sees it, I'm like, I'm okay with it. But my opponent saw it, and yeah, so it ended up being just a mistake on my end. So of course, white has this really nice small tactic with knight takes b5. So the point is that when I take back, the opponent can take on c4. Now it's a double attack on d3 and b5, rook b3, and queen c2. Again, keeping this double attack. I can still protect it with queen b6, but knight d2. And the thing is, I saw all of these. So I saw all of these when I played c5. And actually, this is the position that I saw. Knight d2, rook b2, queen d3, and c takes b4. C takes d4. And so this is the position that I saw in my mind when I calculated c5, and I was kind of okay with it. Yes, I gave the pawn back, but I was like, now it's a lot easier for me to develop. I'm quite active, but I just gave the pawn back for no particular reason, so it wasn't that great. Now, my opponent made a mistake here. I think the easy or yeah, I guess easier way to equalize is by playing knight f3. Now, after rook e2, queen e2, knight d7, I want to play e5, and sure, I would say it's probably equal, but in practice, I just believe that it's easier to play as black, just because I have better structure. I have a d4 protected passed pawn. Again, white shouldn't be worse, but I think it's just easier to play. I think that's what really attracted me to this line. It's just easy to play. And my opponent did make a mistake by playing c5. Now here I calculated a line, and I wish I could tell you like, oh, everything was calculated and I did it on purpose. So of course I could take on c5, and I saw it I could take on c5 because queen takes. So there's this long line, knight b3, queen c3. Takes, rook b1, and I was okay with it. So because there's still this line, bishop a6, very annoying move. Why? Because after rook takes b2, I have rook b8, and now I'm creating this pin, which is super annoying. Now I want to play bishop c4, so only move is rook b1, but now I have bishop d3, and I basically end up winning the pawn. And I was like, I like this, but at the same time, I wasn't a huge fan of it because sure, I'm up a pawn, but it's on the same side. So with good defense, white can draw this. And I was like, I don't know, I don't want to do this. So I ended up playing queen b4. And again, I wish I could tell you that, like, oh, it was all, everything was calculated and it was all on purpose, but I was like, or like queen b4 had like a very deep idea behind it, but I was like, no, I just wanted to avoid the previous line. And so it wasn't intentional, the hoping for c6 that actually happened in the game. So c6 was a blunder. So the best move would have been something like knight f3. Now, by the way, already after queen b4 is already, I'm already a little bit better, like at the position already feels a little bit better. So it's not that easy to make a move, but knight f3 still the best, and rook e2, queen takes c2, but queen c5. So it's of course a little bit better for me. I am up a pawn. Again, with proper defense, white can hold this position as well. Now queen b4, and my opponent played c6. And here, this is just straight up a blunder. Now, I'm not even going to tell you guys what the best move is. So if you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you. And please let me tell you what, not let me tell you, you tell me what's the winning move, because I couldn't tell what's the winning move apparently. And I also made a blunder. So my move was okay, but nowhere as good as the winning move. So by the way, very simple move. I don't even know why I missed it, but I missed it. And I played e5. So again, here in this position, black is winning in one move. So comment down below what you think was the winning move. I played e5, and luckily for me, my opponent gave me another chance. So the best move would have been rook b1 here, just to trade off the pieces. And again, all of a sudden, I am again still, in my opinion, I do have a slight edge, or just a more comfortable position. But again, with proper defense, white should be okay here. But my opponent, luckily for me, played knight c4, gave another chance, and this one I immediately saw for whatever reason, and I played the move rook b3, and the queen is just a bit overloaded. Now you're going to lose material, because you can't really move the queen really anywhere. If you move it to c2, I have multiple ways of winning. Like I have rook c3, I have d3, so I have a lot of different ways. Otherwise, I'm just gonna, if you go back anywhere else, I just take on c4, and yeah, I win the game. So I got kind of lucky, at the end. But again, I feel like the position was a little bit more comfortable for me. So of course, like it was. It wasn't forced to miss something like this, but it was a little bit uncomfortable for white for sure. Well, all right, guys. So that was my third round game of Sants Open. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something, and wish me luck for the rest of the tournament. Yeah, it's the tough part is coming. I know. All right, guys. See you guys in the next one. Yeah, take care.